What up, Neil?
What's up?
How's it going?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing, Adam?
I am happy we got over the technical hurdles that exist in this planet, and now we get to talk to each other.
This is what happens when you want to enterprise your own skills. You have to do all of the things necessary, and it tests you just so you can start doing the thing that you want.
And, I will say that we've both been streaming and doing things that are super closely related to this. And even now I'm like, wow, this took me days to get set up. And it's not even that much.
I have even done podcasts that are like exactly like this. And at my other studio, for some reason, I thought I could make it work, but I couldn't. And so I had to come home. We've tried everything, and now it works. And here we are.
Yeah. Thank you to my friend Steve for sitting on the computer with me for 4 hours and figuring this out. And Neil for sending me an arrow. I now have an arrow.
Yes.
I feel like
an Arrow Apollo.
An Arrow Apollo, not an ad. We'll get sponsored eventually by somebody at some time for something. But I figure until we get sponsored, we can just say we're sponsored by people and then make them pay us to stop saying it.
Hey, stop saying it because you don't represent our company very well. So here's some money to stop.
Yeah, here,
like,
get
okay,
out.
Thank you.
Like, all right, fair enough. We are now sponsored by, I don't know, what's a really good ethical company?
Coca-Cola.
We're sponsored by Coca-Cola and Apple. Yeah. Dude, let's remove our podcast for saying that.
Spotify's like, you cannot be on here.
Yeah, you can't be on here, guys. You need to leave. Yeah, so we're doing it. Welcome to our podcast. It's called Don't Shit on the Bus. Tell your friends. Bring them on the journey. Neil, thanks for agreeing to do this with me.
Of course.
Yeah, so...
I think it's going to be awesome.
I think so, too. And it's the most profanity I'm going to be saying in a long time. Because my other streaming stuff, you can swear on your stream, right? It's like mature audiences.
Mm-hmm.
I don't swear. And my friends have kids, so I stopped swearing as much. But
I mean, it's probably for the better. And I wish that I used profanity less. But I don't know how to speak if I don't do that. Like literally, like half of my vocabulary is like fuck or shit.
yeah. So we can swear on this podcast at least. And it's in our title.
Right.
Yeah. Well, full of swearing podcast. Here we go. Well, thanks for joining us. I hope our audio sounds good right off the bat. That's the biggest, tiff I have with podcasts is I'll listen to people starting out and it'll sound like an airplane person. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I mean, I think that is something that is generally overlooked when people start podcasts is they're like, oh, I'll just start recording because it should be that easy. Like you should be able to plug in a microphone and it just sounds good, but that just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Like we talked about earlier, there's literally so many hurdles that you have to get over, even though you know exactly what you're doing. You just have to do it. And that's kind of harder than it sounds.
Yeah. No, agreed. And yeah, so you got to buy links for your cameras. You got to buy audio plugs. You have to upgrade your software. Then your camera doesn't work. I actually stripped all the screws on my computer last night trying to get the bottom off because I didn't have the right screwdriver. And I ended up ripping it off and just to clean out the fan so it would finally work. And now it's actually working. You
take it back into Apple and you're like, I don't know why the screws are stripped. Apple.
They're like,
Mr. Apple.
Why is there plastic epoxy in here? You're like, I don't know, but my stream is sponsored by it. So anyway, don't shit on the bus. Well, Neil, tell them what it means. Define it.
Well, the short version of don't shit on the bus is you're living in a bus with a bunch of different people. This is all of your homes, and the plumbing on a bus isn't really well equipped to handle poop. So when you do that, you're kind of screwing everybody over. And in short, that's not what you want to do whenever you live with someone for an entire month in a small confined space is ruin the mood. You don't want to do that. Yeah. So long story short, don't shit on the bus.
Yeah, don't shit on the bus. You're going on tour with people. You're traveling around. It's about teamwork. It's about respect. And shitting on the bus is literally the opposite of that. You've taken your own needs and pushed everybody else's out of the way and said, I'm going to poop on the bus anyway.
I mean, and to be completely honest, you can poop on the bus. You just shouldn't. It's really how it goes. I mean, if it comes down to it and it's an absolute emergency, you can do it, but you're going to pay a fine and everyone's going to be really pissed off at you. And then the whole bus is going to smell like poop. And that's just not something that you want.
How many times, you've been touring for probably 15 years, how many times have you shit on a bus that you weren't supposed to?
Not in a bag?
Not in a bag.
That's another thing.
We'll get to hot bagging, but how many times not in a bag?
Zero.
Respect. Same.
Yeah.
We're no bus shitters.
I knew other people, they were like, yeah, we got a poop grinder. But it's like, we were never like that special that had like the bus that was equipped for the the pooping. And so we just never did it. We just were like, all right, fine. It's easy enough. We'll stop at truck stops. We'll do all the things necessary to kind of avoid ruining everybody else's time. So yeah, 0.
Nice. Yeah, I think I've definitely gotten to point, like even for some reason, hot bagging, I just use it as a last resort. So I like train my body. And I remember having conversations with my mom and other people that be like, wait, what do you do at night? And I was like, you just don't go to the bathroom. Like, well, what?
You get into a rhythm. Yeah. You don't eat awful, greasy things that are going to make your stomach hate you late in the evening.
Wait, we always do.
You just avoid it.
There's always pizza on the bus after the show.
Yeah, it's either you train yourself to not react to those things, or you just don't eat them. It's like one or the other. You just, because you can't do it. It's just not cool.
The worst is when you wake up and you're on a bus and you have a coffee machine and you make coffee and then you're like, wait, we're not at the venue yet. What have I done? You just, everything starts turning and yeah, it's a disaster.
This is the most we will ever talk about poop on the podcast. Just we're going to get it all of our systems right now, and then we'll never happen again.
We just wanted to define it because we realized like it's a pretty straightforward and known saying in touring world. Don't shit on the bus. It's like it's what you tell everybody when they get on the bus if they're a guest. It's the first thing, and they always look at you kind of like, are they kidding? Are they serious? Why are they telling me this? And it's because it's really the only thing you can do wrong when you go on somebody's bus, other than things that like obviously you don't want to punch a window out. The other than things that are wrong other places as well, not shitting on the bus is shitting on the bus is the only thing you can do wrong. So that's why, we kind of made it about that. It's about respect and it's
about respect.
Yeah.
I think ultimately it defines a lot more about touring than just pooping.
Yeah. It's big picture.
It's about respect. That's ultimately, you're sharing space with a bunch of different people for an extended period of time. And it's ultimately about respect. And it says a lot more than the words lead on. But if you've toured, you completely understand that don't shit on the bus means so much more than just pooping.
Yeah, and if you haven't toured, well, we're here to help. So the important part about not shitting on the bus or the concept is that there's other ways you can tour. There's other ways to operate on the road. You can be selfish or you can think of yourself or yourself comes first. But Neil and I, we don't really tour that way and we don't really operate that way. We're big team players and some people might, and that's okay. That's kind of how they tour, but we really feel strongly that this is the right way to tour.
Well, and with that being said, we have toured with people that are completely selfish and completely self-centered, and they don't normally last. Like, especially like on our crew, they don't last on other crews that we've been around touring with them as well. It's like you can do that, but you'll be moving around a lot more than you would like to, and you probably won't make many friends.
If you ever meet somebody that's like, yeah, I've been touring for 5 years, here's the 42 bands I've worked for, you're like, okay, what's going on? Why have you been with each artist for 1 month? They probably shit on the bus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're like, well, I have IBS and it's not my fault.
Fair enough. Respect. Okay, so, why do we want to do this podcast?
I think that it's one of the most important things that you can do for people is to take experiences that you have lived and give those experiences to other people. And what a cool way to do this. Like nothing like this podcast exists yet.
We tried to do some research and we could find stuff like within the industry that we knew about, but we were trying to think like, general population, if somebody would type into Google, I want a tour, and I Googled it and it was all like very clickbaity. And it wasn't very educational or real or from the source. It was like almost like somebody was like, I'm going to do a research paper on touring and tell people how much the jobs are, like how much you make during each job and what it is, which is good. But really, we want to take you from sitting on your couch at home to being on the road with a band or a DJ or a rapper or whatever kind of music.
And touring is fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's super fun.
I mean, and touring when you're successful at it is fucking awesome because it can be a really good way to make money. It can be a really good way to see the world. It can be a really good way to make new friends and join a community that already exists before you get there. And those are all things to me that mean they're literally my lifeblood. Everything that I just said is why I love touring. I love getting to travel. I love getting to eat. I love getting to do all those things. And in order for me to keep doing those things, you kind of got to not be a dickhead. So that's what we're here to do.
Yeah. And I wish so badly that we had this when we were younger. Oh my God. Neil's band is responsible for me touring, more or less. I've toured with them more than any other artist that I've worked with. And they got me on the road when I was really young on big tours with buses, not just vans. But when I was younger, it was like you just had to talk to the local bands and kind of see how they did it. Or I know you're in a band, so how did you guys decide to start touring? Did you you just did it, huh?
Well, I mean, we are from a pretty small town in Florida, and the only way that we were told growing up, like, that we would ever make it out of our little small scene was to just tour. And it didn't matter if it was small local stuff or regional stuff or national stuff. You just had to have those accolades under your belt. And no one would take you seriously if you didn't. And so we were like, okay, well, let's just go.
Yeah. You just went on the road.
We got in Jeremy's dad's truck, started touring. It is even more important to be respectful in touring in a truck because there's literally 6 seats and probably only 6 people, maybe 7, and someone's in the back. We've done that before and I don't recommend it, but you just got to do it. I mean, when you're in a band and you want to get out there, the only way, especially when we were growing up, maybe not so much in COVID times, but I hope more than anything after we get over this, that will be the way that you prove you want this. You go out there and it's hard and you do the work and you show people, hey, I'm just not doing this for all the glamour and the fame, because that shit probably almost never happens for most people that try it. So you got to go out and just love it. You got to do it. Yeah.
That's the cool thing is, like, not people, it's a hard industry to get into because not everybody gets to do this. Like, you really have to want it more than almost everybody else other than the other people that are doing it. So you really do have to work hard, and yeah, it pays off. I like to think so.
It's like a secret society that you have to, like, do all of these special things just to even get the opportunity to do. So when you do get that opportunity, you don't want to mess it up by shitting on the bus.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you know,
and it's funny.
That's just what it comes down to.
And it's funny we decided to start this during Corona. Obviously, nobody's touring right now other than the drive-in shows. But we figure, give you the tools right now. And when everything picks back up, you can come at it full force or start doing your research now.
That is all that matters.
Yes. So I figure, well, you're here listening to us. You probably, maybe you know who we are already. Or if you don't, well, we'll kind of teach you. But you're like, well, why should I listen to these two people?
You should listen to Adam Elmakias because he is the photographer extraordinaire. I think that Adam kind of started, I think you started touring photography at the level that it exists now. You showed people that they could go out and make a living being a photographer for bands, not on the level of like Elton John, but like on a level of like, you know what I mean? Like, to make a living doing what you do, you created a brand around yourself. You kind of started that. You were the first person in this scene that created a brand around yourself and your photography and sold that and enabled you to tour with artists that weren't necessarily the biggest in the world or had all the money. And that's why people should probably listen to you, because you're very smart in that aspect. And I think you have a lot of insight into what it takes to make it on not much.
Yeah, agreed. I think that agreed with the latter part. Thank you for the first part. Yeah, I agree. I think that the similarities we have are that we started out with nothing, right? We just started, and Neil's in A Day to Remember. They're currently a worldwide touring rock band that has taken me on tour a lot of time. It's kind of cool having him on here because, in a way, a lot of people that go on tour don't go on as the artist. They go on as crew, which is mainly what we'll focus on. And Neil, in a way, I mean, he's the kind of person you need to impress. He's kind of the boss. Listening to what he has to say is pretty important because at the end of the day, they're the person that kind of decides, well, hey, did they shit on the bus or not? Because we want to keep them on tour. So, and he's been doing it. And the cool part is Neil's band started out, like he said, very small. So he's gone through every tier of touring as far as, starting out in a friend's car, going into a van, going into a bus, doing more fly dates, doing festivals. Like, his band has really scaled, and through that, his knowledge is really vast. I had the pleasure of doing most of it with him. Thank you, A Day to Remember. I think combined together hit a lot of different areas of the industry and talk about a lot of things we know. And
you just made me sound way cooler than I am. But no, thank you.
I owe you.
Yeah, it's something that most people don't get to see from the beginning to arenas or fly dates or festivals like that. And I will also say, a lot of times you can do things wrong and make mistakes. And if you are a good person and a hard worker, a lot of times the bands or whoever is your boss will give you another shot. So these are the people that you have to make like you. Unfortunately, that's just kind of how it works.
Yeah. So I figured before we get into more of what the podcast is about and what the goal is, maybe we talk a little bit about, I don't know, kind of how we met.
It was a cold night in Madison, Wisconsin.
Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That's right.
Close. 60 miles to the east.
We knew you because of Gage Young, right?
Yes.
Like we met because of another photographer who was from our hometown, and he said, this photographer is an up-and-coming photographer in the area that is absolutely incredible at what he does. You should meet up with him, shoot some photos. And at the time, like we were kind of skeptical of all photographers because at the time it was like, hey, I want to get a guest list and come to the show and we'll shoot you. And like they bring whatever, a little point and shoot camera or whatever. Yeah,
like social network didn't exist back then. So everything was word of mouth. And ironically, or not ironically, but I met Gage, the photographer, on Flickr. Throwback to Flickr.
Oh yeah, Flickr. I forgot about Flickr.
Flickr was good times. And he, so he connected me with your drummer, and then we met up and did a photo shoot in Milwaukee. Yep. They were nice enough. They were open to it. And, it all kind of started there. And the reason we talk about respect and all these things, because it really all starts from just how you meet somebody. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't know each other if we weren't respected by said peers, and we didn't respect said peers' opinions. So Gage is like, hey, check this guy out. And we're like, okay, cool. We trust you. We think you're good at what you do. If you think he's good and he's on your level, we absolutely want to work with him. Yeah, you came out to the show. It was at that one ballroom. It wasn't at the rave.
It was actually at Turner's Hall, which is an old bowling alley. The whole floor is slanted.
I remember that. It was so weird.
Yeah, it was a weird venue.
It was the weirdest show. I remember playing that show was kind of soul sucking, and we kind of looked forward to the photo shoot afterwards. And then when we met up with you, you're like, hey, we're going to go outside and shoot in this parking lot. And we're like, oh, shit. God damn it. All right, fine. Let's do it. If you have a good place, we'll go do it. And we were always kind of open for those ideas. We're like, if it's going to be worth it, we'll go and put in the work and do it, whatever.
Yeah.
We ended up going out, shooting outside. I don't think we used any of the photos from outside.
And
we just came
I still
back.
Have them. There's like 3. It's you guys looking like Florida people in Wisconsin winter. It was funny.
At the time, that was what I remember all of this because it was all so different and so new to us. Like we were just like, yeah, we'll do it, whatever. I also remember that night that there was like that room that was filled with giant like pillow beanbag things.
They were right behind the shot we ended up using.
What were those? What was that?
I don't know. I think they might have done like movies there or something.
But yeah, I mean, I think that was like where we started.
That's how a lot of relationships start in this industry. I mean, like I'm just thinking Neil's current guitar tech is one of his best friends. Like it's just like a lot of people hire their friends, they hire their family, they hire people they met. Like I remember hearing that story of Prince going to that venue in Arizona and hiring their sound guy or something, or their lighting. It's like people just hire crew because of who they are and they do a good job and they're nice people. So it's really important to just, I don't know, networking is just the key to this. And it's kind of why I liked how we met.
What you lack in skills, you can make up for in personability, if that's even a word. I mean, it's like, it's
personability.
like
it's somewhere close to a word.
It has all the elements of a word, but I don't know if it actually is one. It is now. That's the thing is, if you can make someone feel comfortable to do their craft, in our situation, it's making music or being a live musician, live guitarist, whatever. If you can make me feel comfortable and you can catch me and make me feel good doing what I do, then you'll probably work out.
Yeah.
Even if
you don't have to be the best.
Yeah, exactly. Like as long as you like being around the person and as long as they make you feel comfortable when you're doing what you do, that's really, the rest can be learned and filled out and molded in the correct way, I guess.
Yeah, if you're at home and you're thinking about going on tour and you're like, I just don't think I'm good enough, I don't know if I'm qualified for this, don't worry about any of that stuff. All that matters is that you're working hard and moving forward. And I always think of the analogy like if you're getting married and you're like, wow, we need a chef for our wedding or we want to get food. Nobody Googles like best chef in the world or best area chef. They just ask their friends. They go, hey, when you got married, who did you use? Or they ask, and that's kind of how the music industry works in a way where it's like, hey, I'm going on tour. I need a guitar tech. They'll just ask other guitarists who they know. It's never like a Google search. So that's why it's just important to network.
It's important to network. It's important to keep those relationships. And it's important to not end relationships on a bad note.
Yeah.
Like you never, even if like something comes up or something happens and you can't be there or you can't stay, you don't ever want to just ghost somebody. You don't ever want to do that because to be completely honest, it's like, oh man, yeah, that guy was working for us. Everything was great. And then one day he just left.
We don't know what happened to him. We never heard from him again.
It's all about trust.
Yeah.
Especially in this industry. Yeah. You have to be able to trust people. You're going to be very vulnerable around them. And that's what this is. You're living your life. You're showing someone a very vulnerable side of you and vice versa. And you want to be able to trust that person. You want to be able to feel like you can be yourself around them. And especially if you're a crew member, getting the best of the person that you're working for is everything, because that means that you're going to be more successful, they're going to be more successful, and you're going to continue to have work. That's like the most important thing.
That makes sense. And I know we're kind of jumping around, but we just figured we'd have a first episode where it was kind of like, who are we? What do we want to do? And the goal of this. But afterwards, we'll kind of, everything we're touching on, if you have more questions, I guarantee moving into this podcast, we're going to break everything down systematically to the best of our abilities. Granted, we're learning too. We're new to podcasting, but I don't know. I like it already.
I think that this is like a testament to what it takes.
Yeah.
You know,
we're starting.
As long as you try and work hard and keep getting better.
Yeah. And if you guys like what you hear, you have any suggestions, always let us know. But I figured, Neil, why should people, I know we kind of touched on it already, but why should people listen to us? Like, why us?
Well, first of all, I think you said earlier, but there is no one else to listen to on the subject.
You have no choice. We're all you got.
I think that we're pretty qualified, especially like insight on both sides of the coin. You know, like you said, I'm in the band that you've worked for. And like I said, you worked for a band I was in.
Yeah.
So we kind of see what it's like from both perspectives of the same scenario. And we've toured in every imaginable situation, scenario.
We've been through a lot.
Everything, all of it. We've done it all. And even though we're still pretty young, we've probably toured more than a lot of the old people doing it. So
yeah, and I think it's kind of cool that, you know, when we don't know something or we want to know more about it, like we're going to go on a journey in this podcast and interview people and talk them through situations and learn from them. I'm excited to actually learn from all the people we get to interview, because between me and you, we have a pretty good pool of, I don't know if there's a person in a crew or band we could hit up that would say no. I feel like everybody's going to be like, yeah, I'm down.
That's the other thing too, is in this line of work and in this world, I feel like people are very excited to share information when someone is excited to learn.
Yeah, they want to give
And I think
back.
a lot of times people are afraid to ask. People are afraid, like you go to shows and you're very intimidated because, you know, this world is very behind the curtain and you
Literally.
don't see a lot of it. It is intimidating. I remember being a young kid going to shows and being like, the mystery at shows is so amazing. And like seeing people up there, I would see Tex and I'd be like, man, that guy's cool. And then if I met that guy, I would be like, I don't know how to talk to him.
You're like, I just met this guy that works for this band that I listened to on the radio. What? It's a crazy concept.
It is. And that's the other thing that I've kind of learned is people are very approachable in this industry. You just have to approach them. And people are willing to share information about their craft because they have spent almost their entire life doing it. They love talking about
And
it.
they're good at it.
They want people that are interested in what they're doing to talk about. Because I'm sure, like, for instance, my significant other, she probably is tired of hearing me talk about what I'm doing. And if someone came to me and was like, yo, how do I stream? Or how do I play guitar, or how do I do all these things? I would love to talk about that stuff. Yeah, I would love to talk about all those things. And a lot of times people are just nervous to talk to me about it, and they shouldn't be, because I would love to talk about it. And I'm confidently say this about most of the people I've met in this industry. They are very friendly and they're very willing to share information. You just have to ask them and approach them in a way that it's not weird or make them feel.
And at the right time, not during the show.
Yeah, that is also true. When you're in the photo pit, they're like, Adam, Mr. Elmakias. Hey, stop taking pictures.
I'm in the photo pit, like waving at the band. I'm like, hey, help. What angles?
Neil,
do you
what
like?
tuning is this song in?
Just with a notepad. Oh man, I've definitely asked questions at the wrong time before.
I think everyone has.
Oh yeah, and I think that's a cool part about this too. Is like we're not going to be able to map everything out for you, but we'll give you some checkpoints, and we'll give you some tips and tricks, and some little, you know, don't do this, do this. We'll kind of help you to the best of our ability. But when it comes down to it, you really have to want it, and you're going to have to put in a lot of work.
That's the least. You're going to have to want it at the least.
Yes.
And it's going to suck the majority of the time, but it is absolutely worth it. It has changed my life in so many ways and for the better. I think before this, I was a complete shithead and I was absolutely very hard to be around. And it wasn't because I wanted to be a shithead and I wanted to be hard to be around. It's just because I didn't know any better. And a lot of times I wish that people would have just come to me in a way that I could have understand, but it's also pretty hard to do that when you don't know people.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a good way to put it, I think.
All right, let's hear it.
When I was younger, playing video games, I wanted to play Zelda, and you could play through Zelda and it'd take like 17 years to beat it without the guide, but you could also have the guide there and you could beat it much quicker. and you still reach the end, but you with a little bit of help, and you still do all the tasks, and you still do all the things. Yeah, we'll be your guy.
You're gonna get all the hearts. You're gonna find all the secrets underneath the trees. What
You
to
need
chop
more
down, where
hearts
to
than you
blow up
think.
the beach. Are you a Link to the Past? Are you talking like Zelda, Game Boy, Super Nintendo, or what are you talking?
I'm talking N64 Zelda Ocarina of Time.
Ocarina of Time was pretty game changing.
We are the Ocarina of Time. We're like the Ocarina of Time in the sense that we have already done this. We are the future you coming back to help you
Yes.
get to where we are.
Yes.
You got to do all these things to get past all this really hard shit. And then once you do that, you can eventually be where we are.
You want to be part of your journey.
Yeah. Hey, what's up? Were you in the future?
Hey, what up?
Don't do that shit.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Don't shit on the bus. Let's go. All right. So we're on the same page. So it sounds like we could do this podcast. And yeah, I think moving forward, let's go. I know we kind of touched on it, but let's go over our goals a little bit here. I think the main thing we want to start with here is we want to help you understand what the hell touring is. I know we're talking about touring, but we want to take you no matter who you are, where you're from, what your experience is, and get you on the road.
Make it less intimidating.
Yeah. I mean, you can tour no matter who you are. So we want to kind of, I guess, demystify, like you're talking about, you know, you see somebody on the stage and you're like, how do I get up there? Like, what does that even mean? Like, what book do I open? What video do I watch? Where do I go? Well, we want to help you, you know, guide you and help you get to that point.
We want to be your spirit guides.
Yeah. We want to be your spirit guide.
When you go to sleep at night, we want you to think of us right before you close your eyes. So if you still like us after you understand what touring is, that's what this is. We're going to help you get on tour.
Then you're going to get off the couch and hopefully get in probably not a bus, probably a van.
Probably a van.
I mean,
maybe a car.
With this day and age, dude, honestly, you can jump so much easier than it used to be because of social networking. Like if you're good at what you do and you meet people, like you can jump, I think.
Well, I also think it's kind of like this. Like you have like those diagrams that are like the 3 circles. You know, you have one circle. Is it a Venn diagram?
Yeah. With the intersecting in the middle?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Venn diagram. You have your skill, you have your personality, and then you have your work ethic. Mm-hmm. And where those things meet in the middle, you should be constantly improving all of those things. Mm-hmm. You should be constantly networking, constantly working on your craft. And if you are doing those things, opportunities will come to you.
Yes.
You cannot plan on what you don't know, but you also can be completely optimistic that it will happen as long as you're continuing to get better and working hard and being a good person.
And listening to the podcast.
And that's ultimately the most important thing. I almost forgot.
Separate circle.
It's the whole circle.
Yes.
They all fit inside of the big circle, which is you have to listen to this.
Yeah, and if you get on tour and you still like it after you get on tour, well, we're going to try to help you, teach you how to get on more tours. So we'll talk to you about, you know, how to network, how to work with people, how to meet people, hopefully make a living out of this.
Yeah, what people are looking for.
Yes.
Like, how can I utilize this person's skill and how can I not want to kill them? That's important.
You're setting a high bar, Neil.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, as a person in a band that hires crew members, as long as I don't want to kill them, I pretty much like all personality types. I'm probably harder to be around than you are most of the time. And that's think about it. Artists are kind of divas.
They're artists.
Yeah, we're fucking weirdos.
Yeah.
It's just how it is. And it's like, you know, as long as that's the case, and you should be fine.
If you still like it and you want to get better, I think like after, like we're probably going to spend like the first few months just talking to you about what everything is. And then we're going to start taking some deep dives. We're going to start talking to tour managers, musicians, and we're going to talk to them and trying to get a little bit deeper into, you know, what they do on a day-to-day basis, what they would do in some scenario. And we're going to really, you know, even if you're already touring, we're going to help you get better. And we're really going to find, you know, some of that secret sauce.
At least we hope so.
Yes, we hope so. It'd be really funny if we like did the first 20 episodes or so that are all like intro kind of, or catch people up. And then we went to interview people and they're like, absolutely not.
Oh yeah. You guys interview us? No,
absolutely
that's not going to happen.
I've heard about your stuff. It has the shit word in it. Get out of here.
Yeah, right. Fucking road dogs are like, oh, I'm only doing the podcast with the cuss word in the title. Fuck yeah, bro.
Yeah, I think it's good. I already had people asking for wanting to do the interview section. So I'm kind of excited because once you put it out, I know people are gonna be like, I want to be on that. I want to get interviewed. And I'll be like, just wait a little. Like we can't jump it. Wait like 4 months.
We're going to be shining the light on these people that deserve the spotlight and almost never get it. That is like that's the other thing is like crew members make the show happen.
Yes.
But it is the most unglorified job that exists, I think, on earth. The people that are working for bands and in the theater and in any other live event,
just everybody
people
who's
putting
not
on
in
the show
crowd, basically,
is the most important part. Mm-hmm. It couldn't happen without them. but majority of the time you will not get the thanks or the glorification that you deserve. And you got to learn to be okay with that. That's
You're out there wearing stage flags, hiding in the shadows, catching kids that fall in the barricade and plugging guitars in.
The more you are not seen, the better. The more that you are not thought
We're still
about.
talking about touring, right? You're just not talking about people in general.
Yeah. I'm
Go
just
home,
saying, it's like,
stay in your room.
yeah, no, I'm saying like if you're out there and you're on tour, if you don't see that person, that means they're doing a fucking good job because they're still doing their job. You just don't see it.
Yeah.
And that's the goal, you know?
And I'll say from like personal experience, last year I did some workshops at venues and it was more geared towards photographers. And I initially had written most of this stuff as working on a book for photographers, but I was like, wow, this is mostly applicable to anybody touring. And when I brought those photographers in, I had a crew member, I had a security guard, a tour manager, a drum tech, a guitar tech, kind of there telling everybody what they did all day. So when these photographers would meet them at the venue, they would learn from them. And I saw during that how excited, like you're saying, those crew members were to teach people. Because there's never a situation, if they could tell people how to interact with them before they had to interact with them, a tour manager or a stage manager's job would be so much easier. Half their job is basically being like, no, you're doing this the wrong way. And now I have to yell at you because I'm doing a show. So they were so thankful to be able to teach these people ahead of time.
It makes everything better. It's like, like if you have a Ford car and you bring it into a Chevy dealership, you're going to spend half the time being like, no, that's a Chevy thing, not a Ford thing, blah, blah, blah,
you're
whatever.
Doing it wrong. You've got the wrong map.
Yeah. Do it better. And it's actually probably both of your faults, but hopefully we will expedite that entire process. And then when you get there, you're gonna be like, I'm a fucking the shit and I'm here to do my job.
I can skip all the mistakes. Well, you won't skip. You're gonna make a lot of mistakes, but you can skip the most embarrassing things. You can skip the equivalence of shitting on the bus. You know what I mean? Or of the doing the mistakes that are like, all somebody would have to tell you to do is not do this. It's not like you had a habit to break or you had a bad intention in your body. You just did something you could normally do in a place you shouldn't do it.
We're not here to teach you how to do your job.
Yeah.
We're just here to teach you how to do your job and be accepted by the community that you're joining by not being an asshole. We're here to help you be better at you.
Yeah, we're not here to kind of teach, like if you want to be guitar tech, we're not going to teach you how to guitar tech. We're going to teach you how to, once you are guitar teching or learning those things on your own, how to maneuver your way around the industry and what you need to do to kind of put yourself in a position to be hired for what you're doing. Because it's not like a normal job, right, Neil? It's not like, I want to be a doctor, I'm doing 4 years in college, another 4 years in another college. I don't know too much information about how to be a doctor. I know it's a lot of school, but there's not really a map for it already, right? We're here to give you that map.
When you're a doctor, you have to go and do a residency. Mm-hmm. And when you're a resident doctor, they're not like, when you first get there, they're not going to let you fucking go do surgery. They're going to bring you in and be like, this is what it's like to work on our floor. Here's Kim. She's the nurse. Here's this other person. You need to learn how to communicate with these people and do better with each of those people so that you can do your job more effectively. Because you don't want to like waste all your time learning how to be a doctor. You already know how to be a doctor. You just need to know how to be a doctor in that scenario. That's it.
So yeah, I mean, we can wrap it up here. This first episode, we're going to be about an hour usually in the future, setting us up for some expectations here. But I mean, we just kind of want to give you an overview of what's going to go on and what you can expect if you decide to invest an hour with us every week.
We just like listening to each other talk mainly. And we're friends and we don't get to talk that often because touring isn't happening right now.
Yeah, what the heck?
Normally, we would be spending all of this time together anyways.
Dude.
Going to lunch and doing all those normal things that people do on tour, but we don't get to. So we are here doing this for you guys.
When we get to tour again, the podcast will get easier because we'll be next to each other. How weird is that going to be?
It's like, I can hear you in my microphone. Can you talk? Can you go further away, please?
That's going to be so weird. I didn't even think about that. We set ourselves up for success here.
That's what we're doing for you as well.
Yes.
We're setting you up for success.
So in conclusion, we don't have much to promote yet. We've got some stuff. We got some exciting stuff coming up, but thanks for joining us for the first episode.
This one's sponsored by Apple.
Budweiser.
Topo Chico.
What's that?
So it's water.
Oh.
Sparkly water.
Now I know. Topo Chico. I learned a lot today actually already, just from you.
Can they edit in a thing that goes, the more you know, and it like goes across the screen?
Is that
right when
Topo Chico?
That? No, that's Reading Rainbow or some public access television or something.
The more you know. Connor, when you edit this,
the more you know.
Edit in something, the more you know.
Do, 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 do.
Yeah, let's go ahead and we'll give Connor a preemptive thank you for editing and doing everything with us here. He's going to be our crew member that's behind the scenes that, I don't know, is doing a lot of work for this. So we appreciate you, Connor.
Connor, you're beautiful, even though I've never seen you.
Right? Actually, yeah, no, you haven't seen him.
Connor's like young Jamie on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Right? Yeah, he's like Jamie.
You don't see him, but you know he's there.
And he does a lot of work. He like takes notes and he pulls up visuals and
he edits.
Yeah. I listened to a Joe Rogan podcast the other day on how all of Christianity and other religions are founded on hallucinogenics.
Drugs.
Yeah. That was awesome.
I love that
Dude,
one
he's such
too.
a good interviewer. Joe Rogan, wow.
He really is.
Very good. Whether like who he is aside, he asks amazing questions.
He asks amazing questions, and he's genuinely interested in every guest that comes on his podcast. And his interests are so vast that a never-ending source of knowledge on things that maybe you're not even interested in or you didn't know you were interested in, but he is for you.
He's a good, he's a good gateway to a lot of things.
We're also sponsored by Joe Rogan Podcast. So if you like podcasts, check out Joe Rogan Podcast. You probably already checked it out. If you like Joe Rogan Podcast, you're going to love this podcast.
Yeah, it's like the same thing.
It's nothing like his, except for they're both podcasts.
Yeah, and Spotify doesn't sponsor us.
You guys you look very similar. You guys are both very muscular.
I don't take HGH, but other than that, yeah.
I'm going to start.
Right now?
That's something that you should not do when you go on tour, because I'm sure it's insufferable to be around people that are
I've been on somebody on tour that's on HGH.
True.
Not Neil. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us for our first episode of Don't Shit on the Bus. I've been Adam and will always be Adam.
And I have been Neil the whole time.
Awesome. All right, guys. We will see you next week for, I don't know what it's going to be called.
Episode
2. We haven't named it yet. Well, we have, but we'll make sure. All right. Peace.
Return of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi.